Jack Mason stepped off the transport ship and felt the hot air of Corexis hit his face. The desert moon's twin suns beat down on him as he squinted at the large building ahead. The Galactic Combat Academy stood like a fortress against the orange sky. Jack took a deep breath and picked up his bag. He was the first human ever allowed to train here, and he knew many didn't want him to succeed. A tall, blue-skinned woman with 4 arms approached him. "Human Mason? I am Instructor Tala. Follow me." Jack nodded and walked behind her through massive metal doors. Inside, the academy was cool and dim. The halls were filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some had scales, others had tentacles, and a few seemed made of living stone. They all stopped to stare at Jack as he passed. "They've never seen a human before," Tala explained. "Most think your kind is too weak for this place." "I'm here to prove them wrong," Jack said. Tala's upper arm shrugged. "We shall see." She led him to a large round room where 30 students stood in perfect lines. They wore simple gray training clothes like Jack's, but none looked human. Some were twice his size with thick armor-like skin. Others had extra limbs or sharp claws. At the front of the room stood a 7-foot-tall reptilian, being with dark green scales and yellow eyes. A long tail with spikes swung behind him as he watched Jack enter. "Instructor Vexler," Tala said. "The human recruit has arrived." Vexler. Eyes narrowed as he looked Jack up and down. "This is what the council sends us? A soft-skinned mammal with no natural defenses?" His voice was low. Raspy. Jack stood straight and said nothing. He had been warned about Vexler. The Draconian warrior was famous for his fighting skills and for hating new species in the galactic community. Humans were the newest members, only joining 3 years ago. "Join the others," Vexler ordered. "Today, we assess all new students." Jack took his place in line. Next to him stood a being made of what looked like blue crystal. On his other side was a 4-armed male with metallic skin. "I am Zorn," the 4-armed student whispered. "Ignore Vexler. He treats all new species this way." "Silence," Vexler shouted. He walked down the line of students, stopping in front of each one. "The Academy trains the galaxy's elite warriors. Many of you will fail. Some will be injured. A few might die." He stopped in front of Jack. "Especially those not built for combat." Jack felt the eyes of everyone in the room on him. He kept his face calm, but inside his heart beat faster. He had trained for years for this chance. Earth needed him to succeed, so humans would be respected in space. "First test, basic strength," Vexler announced. He pointed to a wall of metal. "Weights. Each student will lift according to their body type." One by one, the students stepped forward. The stone beings lifted huge blocks. The crystal people used strange powers to move objects. When Jack's turn came, Vexler smiled with sharp teeth. "Let us see what a human can do," he said. Jack approached the weights. They were designed for beings much stronger than humans. He chose one that he knew he could lift, heavy but possible. With careful form, he raised it above his head. Some students looked surprised. Vexler did not. "Barely acceptable," the instructor said. "Next test, reflexes." For the next 2 hours, Jack and the others were tested on speed, jumping, climbing, and fighting moves. Jack did well enough on most tests, though he wasn't the best at any. The stone beings were slowest. The crystal people were weakest in direct combat. Every species had strengths and weaknesses, except Vexler seemed to focus only on Jack's weaknesses. "Humans have poor eyesight," he announced when Jack missed a target in low light. "Humans have no claws for climbing," he said when Jack took longer on the rock wall. "Humans bruise when struck," he noted when Jack blocked a training punch. By midday, Jack's body ached, but he refused to show it. The other students seemed tired too. Only Vexler looked energized, his yellow eyes watching Jack's every move. "Final test for today. Combat basics," Vexler said. "I will demonstrate proper form with each student." He worked his way through the line, showing different moves with each species. He was tough but fair with most of them. When he reached Jack, his tail swished faster. "Attack position," Vexler ordered. Jack moved into the stance he had learned in Earth's Special Forces. It wasn't the same as the Academy form, but it was close. "Wrong," Vexler said. "A human should stand like this." He moved behind Jack and roughly pushed his shoulders lower. "Arms here." He grabbed Jack's wrists and positioned them not, then it happened. As Vexler stepped away, his spiked tail accidentally swung across Jack's face. The sharp scales cut a line across Jack's cheek. Blood ran down to his chin. The room went silent. Everyone saw what happened. It was clearly no accident. "Oh," Vexler said with fake concern. "Human skin tears so easily. Perhaps you should go to medical." Jack felt the sting, but didn't move. Blood dripped onto the floor. He slowly raised his hand and wiped it away. "I'm fine, Instructor," he said calmly. "Please continue." Something flashed in Vexler's eyes. Surprise, maybe even respect, but it quickly changed back to contempt. "As you wish, but humans bleed so much. Try not to make a mess on my training floor." The lesson continued for another hour. Jack's cut burned, but he focused on every move, every instruction. He would not give Vexler the satisfaction of seeing him quit. When training ended, the students were shown to their sleeping rooms. Jack shared with Zorn and 2 others. As Jack cleaned his cut with a medical kit, Zorn sat nearby. "Vexler did that on purpose," Zorn said. "He has never drawn blood on the first day before." "I know," Jack replied. "You should report him to Director Ortega. She is human like you." Jack shook his head. "No, that would only prove his point." A new voice spoke from the doorway. "You understand already. Good." A blue-skinned female with glowing eyes entered. "I am Kyrillon, 3rd-year student and your section leader." "He cut my face on purpose," Jack said. "Why?" Kyrillon sat across from him. "Vexler fears what he doesn't understand. Humans are new to space, but stories about you spread quickly. They say your kind survived on a deaf world, that you hunted, with nothing but your minds and simple tools, that you never quit, even when badly hurt." "Some of that is true," Jack admitted. "Vexler drew first blood to see what you would do," Kyrillon continued. "Most new students would have complained or quit." Jack finished cleaning his cut. It would leave a small scar, his first from the academy, but probably not his last. "He wants me to fail," Jack said. Zorn nodded. "Yes, but now he knows it won't be easy." Kyrillon stood to leave. "Rest well, human. Tomorrow will be harder." After she left, Jack lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. His muscles ached. His face stung, but he felt strangely calm. Vexler had shown his true feelings today. The instructor had drawn first blood. Jack closed his eyes and made a silent promise to himself. He would not only survive this place, he would excel. And someday, Vexler would regret making an enemy of the first human at the Galactic Combat Academy. 2 weeks passed at the Galactic Combat Academy, and each day grew harder than the last. Jack woke before the twin suns rose, his body sore from the previous day's training. The cut on his cheek had healed into a thin scar, a daily reminder of Vexler's challenge. Jack pulled on his gray training uniform and looked around the room. His roommates still slept. Zorn, with his 4 metallic arms folded across his chest, made soft clicking sounds as he dreamed. The stone-skinned Taurian named Grax took up two beds pushed together, his heavy body leaving dents in the metal frame. Jack slipped out quietly and headed to the training grounds. He had started waking up early to practice alone, away from Vex'lar's yellow eyes and sharp comments. The outdoor arena was empty in the dim morning light. Jack began his own exercises, movements from Earth's martial arts that the Academy didn't teach. He had noticed that most alien fighting styles relied on natural weapons, claws, tails, or extra limbs. Humans had none of these, but they had something else. Adaptation. You train when no one watches. Interesting. Jack spun around to see Kiralan, the blue-skinned empath, standing at the edge of the arena. Her glowing eyes studied him. I need the extra practice, Jack said. No, she replied, walking closer. You are hiding your true skills. I can sense it. Jack stopped his exercises and wiped sweat from his forehead. Vex'lar already thinks humans are weak. Why show him everything I can do? Kiralan smiled. Smart, but be careful. Today is Weapons Day. She was right. After the morning meal, all first-year students gathered in the main hall, where racks of strange weapons lined the walls. Some looked like swords that glowed with energy. Others seemed grown rather than made, with organic curves and textures. Vex'lar stood at the center, holding a serrated blade that hummed with power. Today you learn the Kavoth, the most honored weapon in the galaxy. It requires perfect form and control. The students formed lines, and training began. Each was given a practice Kavoth with a dulled edge. Jack held his carefully, feeling its unusual balance. It was designed for beings with different center of gravity than humans. Grip. With dominant hand here, Vex'lar demonstrated. Second grip point is here. Jack tried to copy the position, but his hands were smaller than the Draconian's clawed fingers. The weapon felt awkward. No human, Vex'lar said loudly, walking over to Jack. Like this. He roughly adjusted Jack's hands. Even a child could do this correctly the first time. Some students laughed. Jack kept his face calm and tried again. For the next 2 hours, they practiced basic strikes and blocks. Most students struggled, but Vex'lar seemed to find only Jack's mistakes. Your arms are too weak for proper form, the instructor said. Perhaps humans should stick to smaller weapons. During a short break, Zorn came to stand beside Jack. He pushes you harder than others. I noticed, Jack said, flexing his sore arms. The Kavoth was designed for Draconian warriors, Zorn explained. It works best with their muscle structure and reflexes. He knows this. Jack studied the weapon in his hands. Then I'll need to adapt it to human use. Zorn's metallic face showed concern. Changing traditional form is not allowed. I won't change it, Jack promised. I'll just ... just. When practice resumed, Jack tried something different. Instead of copying Vex'lar's exact movements, he shifted his weight and grip slightly. The Kavoth still felt strange, but now he could control it better. Vex'lar noticed immediately. What are you doing, human? That is not the proper form. The results are the same, instructor, Jack said, demonstrating a perfect cut through the practice target. Vex'lar's tail swished angrily. Form is everything. Do it correctly or leave my class. Jack returned to the traditional stance, but when Vex'lar moved away, he quietly resumed his adapted style. Kiralan caught his eye from across the room and gave a small nod of approval. After weapons training came the afternoon combat matches. Students were paired to practice what they had learned. Jack hoped to work with Zorn, but Vex'lar had other plans. Mason, he called out, you will spar with Grax. Jack looked at his stone-skinned roommate. Grax stood nearly 7 feet tall and weighed 3 times what Jack did. His rocky fists were the size of Jack's head. Yes, instructor, Jack said, walking to the sparring circle. "Begin," Vexler ordered. Grax charged forward like a boulder rolling downhill. Jack barely dodged the first massive punch, feeling the air rush past his face. A second swing caught him in the side, sending him sprawling across the mat. Pain shot through Jack's ribs, but he forced himself up. The other students watched silently. Jack saw Vexler's satisfied smile and knew this match had been arranged to humiliate him. Grax attacked again, this time more slowly. Jack noticed the big alien moved with predictable patterns, a weakness he could use. Instead of trying to match Grax's strength, Jack began to move differently, using quick footwork from earthboxing. "Stop dancing and fight," Grax rumbled. Jack didn't reply. He continued circling, studying how Grax moved. The stone being grew frustrated and started making wilder swings. Jack saw his chance and darted inside Grax's reach, landing a precise strike to a joint in the stony armor. Grax grunted in surprise. Jack kept moving, never staying still long enough to be caught. He remembered his training on Earth, how to fight larger opponents by using their weight against them. After 5 minutes of combat, both fighters were breathing hard. Jack had taken several hits, but remained on his feet. Grax had yet to land a finishing blow. "Enough warming up," Vexler called out. "Real combat now." Grax nodded and charged again. This time, instead of dodging, Jack stepped into the attack. He grabbed Grax's extended arm and used the alien's momentum to pull him off balance. With a carefully timed sweep, Jack sent the much larger student crashing to the mat. The room went silent. Even Vexler looked shocked. Before Grax could recover, Jack applied a submission hold he had learned in Special Forces training. Despite Grax's superior strength, the hold targeted pressure points that worked on most species. The stone being struggled, but couldn't break free. "Yield," Grax finally said, tapping the mat with his free hand. Jack released him immediately and stepped back. He offered a hand to help Grax up, which the stone being accepted with a nod of new respect. "Luck," Vexler said coldly. Pure luck, but the other students had seen something important. The human wasn't as weak as they thought. Jack caught Chiron and Zorn exchanging glances. Something had changed today. After classes ended, Jack headed to the dining hall. Students from other years stopped talking as he entered, then whispered as he passed. News of his match with Grax had spread. Jack sat alone, but soon Zorn joined him, followed by Caroline and several other first years. "That was impressive today," Zorn said. "Just used what I know," Jack replied. Caroline leaned closer. "Vexler is angry. He has requested to personally assess you tomorrow." Jack put down his food. "What does that mean?" "It means," said a new voice, "that you've caught his full attention." They looked up to see Director Lynn Ortega, the Academy's leader and the only other human on Caraxus. Her uniform bore the marks of many years of service, and a long scar ran down her neck. "Director," they all said, standing quickly. "Sit," she ordered. She looked directly at Jack. "Instructor Vexler has asked for a formal combat assessment with you tomorrow." "I can deny it." Jack thought for a moment. What would that mean for future humans who come here? Director Ortega's face softened slightly. "You understand the bigger picture." "Good." She straightened again. "The choice is yours, Mason." Jack nodded slowly. "Then I accept the challenge." As Ortega walked away, Chiron touched Jack's arm. "Vexler has never lost an assessment match." "There's a first time for everything," Jack said, though his voice betrayed his concern. That night, Jack lay awake long after his roommates were asleep. Tomorrow would change everything, for him and for all humans who might follow. Vexler had drawn first blood 2 weeks ago. Now it was time to end it. The morning of the challenge arrived too quickly. Jack woke before dawn and sat on the edge of his bed. His body felt heavy with the weight of what was coming. Today he would face Vexler in the arena, not just as a student, but as the first human to undergo a formal assessment at the academy. "You should eat," Zorn said, already awake and watching Jack with concern. "You will need strength today." Jack nodded but didn't move. "What are my chances, honestly?" Zorn's metallic face showed no expression, but his voice was gentle. "Vexlar has been a warrior for 30 years. He has fought in 3 galactic conflicts. His scales can stop most blades." He paused. "But you have something he does not understand." "What's that?" "Humans adapt. We have all seen it these past weeks." Jack finally stood and dressed in the simple training clothes laid out for assessment matches. No armor was allowed, no weapons provided, just skill against skill. The dining hall was unusually quiet when Jack entered. Students from all years watched him with curious eyes. Some nodded in respect, others looked at him with pity. No one spoke. To him, as he ate a small meal as he finished, Caroline appeared at his side. "It is time," she said softly. "The arena is ready." Jack followed her through the academy's winding halls. "Any advice?" he asked. "Vexler fights with anger, but thinks with cold logic," she said. "His tail is his strongest weapon, but also his weakness. The joint where it meets his spine can be vulnerable." "How do you know that?" She smiled sadly. "I watched my older brother fight him 3 years ago. He lost, but he learned." They reached the great doors that led to the combat arena. Jack could hear the murmur of many voices beyond. It seemed the entire academy had gathered to watch. "One more thing," Caroline said, stopping him before he entered. "Draconians tire more quickly than they admit. Their strength is in quick victories." Jack took a deep breath. "Thank you." The doors swung open. The ancient arena stretched before him, a circular pit with walls of red stone rising 20 feet high. Seats surrounded it, filled with hundreds of students and instructors. At the center stood Vexler, his green scales gleaming in the morning. Light Jack walked forward until he stood 10 paces from the Draconian. Vexler wore no armor, but his natural scales provided protection enough. His yellow eyes narrowed as he studied Jack. "Human," he said, his voice carrying across the silent arena. "You surprise me. I expected you to run back to your soft planet." Jack said nothing. He focused on controlling his breathing, on staying calm. Showing fear or anger would only give Vexler an advantage. Director Ortega stood from her place in the front row. "This is a formal assessment match," she announced. "Victory comes by submission or incapacitation. No permanent damage is permitted." She looked at both fighters. "Begin when ready." Vexler didn't wait another second. He lunged forward with frightening speed, his clawed hand slashing toward Jack's throat. Jack barely managed to dodge, feeling the rush of air as the claws passed inches from his face. The Draconian followed with a sweeping tail strike that caught Jack in the side, sending him stumbling across the arena floor. Pain flared along his ribs, but Jack kept his feet. "First lesson," Vexler called out to the watching crowd. "Humans lack the reflexes for true combat." He pressed his attack, not giving Jack time to recover. A flurry of strikes forced Jack into a defensive retreat. One claw caught Jack's arm, leaving 3 parallel cuts that quickly welled with blood. Jack heard murmurs from the crowd. This wasn't a match. It was a beating. Exactly what Vexler wanted to show everyone. But Jack had been watching Vexler for 2 weeks. He had studied how Draconians moved, how they fought. And now, as pain sharpened his focus, he began to see patterns in the attacks. When Vexler lunged again, Jack was ready. Instead of backing away, he stepped to the side and landed a sharp, strike to the Draconian's extended arm. Vexler hissed in surprise. "Luck," the instructor growled, circling more cautiously now. Jack didn't respond. He needed to conserve his energy. Kirillan's words echoed in his mind. Draconians tire more quickly than they admit. Vexler attacked again, this time with a complex series of strikes. Jack blocked what he could and absorbed what he couldn't. More cuts appeared on his arms and chest, but none were deep enough to end the fight. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Jack's gray uniform was stained with blood in several places. Vexler looked untouched, but Jack noticed something important. The Draconian was breathing harder now. His attacks came a fraction slower. "You can only run for so long." "Human," Vexler taunted. "Eventually you will tire." Jack smiled for the first time since entering the arena. "That's where you're wrong, Instructor. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion." Something flickered in Vexler's eyes, a moment of uncertainty. Jack pressed his advantage, not with strength, but with words. On Earth, humans with no claws, no armor, no natural weapons, would run after much faster animals for hours, sometimes days. Jack began to circle, forcing Vexler to turn constantly. "We kept going long after stronger creatures gave up." The crowd had gone completely silent, listening to this revelation about the new species among them. Vexler's tail lashed out suddenly, but Jack had anticipated it. He stepped inside the strike and landed a solid blow to the Draconian's side. It didn't penetrate the tough scales, but the impact was enough to make Vexler grunt. "Impossible," Vexler hissed. "No human has the strength to hurt me." "It's not about strength," Jack replied. "It's about knowing where to hit." The fight continued for another 10 minutes. Jack took more hits, but he remained focused, waiting for his moment. Vexler's movements were definitely slower now. His breathing labored. The Draconian's confidence was turning to frustration. In the stands, students began to whisper. No one had ever lasted this long against Vexler in an assessment match. The human should have fallen long ago. "Enough games?" Vexler snarled. He charged forward, abandoning technique for raw power. It was exactly what Jack had been waiting for. As Vexler closed in, Jack dropped low and rolled beneath the slashing claws. Coming up behind the Draconian, he targeted the spot Kirillan had mentioned, the junction where the tail met the spine. Jack struck with precise force. Vexler roared in pain as the sensitive nerves there sent shock waves through his body. His tail went momentarily limp. Taking advantage of the Draconian's surprise, Jack swept Vexler's legs from under him. The instructor crashed to the ground. With a heavy thud that echoed through the arena, a collective gasp rose from the watching students. No one had ever seen Vexler fall in combat. Jack didn't hesitate. Before Vexler could recover, he applied a submission hold targeting nerve clusters beneath the scales, knowledge gleaned from his study of Draconian anatomy in the Academy's library. Vexler thrashed and struggled, but Jack held firm. Blood from Jack's cuts smeared across the Draconian scales as they grappled on the arena floor. "Submit," Jack said quietly, increasing pressure on the hold. "Never," Vexler growled through clenched teeth. Jack adjusted his grip slightly, finding another pressure point. Vexler's yellow eyes widened in pain and shock. The arena held its breath. Everyone knew what should happen next. The instructor should tap the ground 3 times, the universal signal of submission. But Vexler's pride would not allow it. "There is no shame in yielding," Jack said, his voice low but clear in the silence. "On Earth, we learned that lesson centuries ago." For a long moment, Vexler continued to resist. Then, with hatred burning in his eyes, he slapped his hand against the ground. Once, twice, 3 times. Jack released him immediately and stepped back. The arena remained silent, too shocked for sound. Director Ortega stood. "Assessment complete," she announced formally. "Student Mason passes." As Jack turned to leave the arena, he caught sight of Kyrillon and Zorn in the stands. They weren't cheering or celebrating. Their faces showed something more important. Respect. Jack had done more than win a fight today. He had shown the galaxy that humans belonged here among the stars. And he had done it not with superior strength or natural weapons, but with the true power of humanity, the ability to adapt, to endure, and to turn apparent weakness into unexpected strength. The battle was over, but Jack knew this was just the beginning. Jack sat alone in the medical bay as a Medusan healer treated his wounds. The alien had 6 thin arms that moved with incredible precision, cleaning and sealing the cuts Vexler had left on Jack's body. "You will have scars," the healer said, her voice a soft whisper. "But no permanent damage." Jack nodded. Every student at the academy carried scars. They were marks of lessons learned, challenges overcome. His first scar had come from Vexleros' tail on day 1. Now he had many more from the same source. The door slid open, and Director Ortega walked in. The Medusan healer bowed slightly and moved to another part of the room, giving them privacy. "That was quite a display, Mason," Ortega said, sitting on a stool beside him. "I did what I had to do," Jack replied. "You did more than that." She leaned forward. "You changed how the Academy sees humans. That's why I wanted you here first, before we bring more of our kind." Jack looked up in surprise. "More humans are coming?" Ortega nodded. "The council approved a full class. 12 candidates arrive next month." She studied his face. "Your victory today helped make that possible. Vexlar won't like that." "Vexlar doesn't have to like it, but he does have to teach them," Ortega stood. "Which brings me to why I'm here. He's requested something unusual." Jack tensed. "What?" "He wants to remain your primary combat instructor." Of all the things Jack expected to hear, this wasn't one of them. Why would he want that? He hates humans. "Hate is a strong word," Ortega said. "I think what Vexlar hates is being wrong. You proved him wrong about humans." She smiled slightly. "Now he wants to understand how." After Ortega left, Jack finished his treatment and returned to his quarters. News of his victory had spread throughout the academy. As he walked the halls, students from all years stopped to watch him pass. Some nodded in respect. Others simply stared, as if seeing a human for the first time. Jack found Zorn waiting outside their room. The 4-armed alien looked troubled. "What's wrong?" Jack asked. "Grax has requested a new room assignment," Zorn said. "He left while you were in medical." Jack frowned. "Because I beat him in practice?" "No." Zorn's metallic face couldn't show emotion, but his voice was sad. "Because others are saying he helped you prepare for the match with Vexler. Some call him a traitor to his kind." Jack felt a wave of anger. "That's ridiculous. Grax never helped me." "I know, but things are changing. Your victory has created complications." Inside their room, Jack found Kyrillon sitting on his bed. Her blue skin seemed paler than usual, her glowing eyes dimmed with concern. "You should have told me you were researching draconian weaknesses in the library," she said without greeting. Jack sat across from her. "How did you know?" "The librarian is from my world. An empath like me." She leaned closer. "Vexler knows, too. He checked the records after your match." "I didn't break any rules," Jack said. "All students have access to species information. It's not about rules. It's about what happens next." Kyrillon's voice dropped to a whisper. "You humiliated him, Jack, in front of the entire academy. No one has ever done that before." Jack thought about what Ortega had told him. "He asked to keep teaching me." Kyrillon's eyes widened. "That is unexpected." What does it mean? It means, said a deep voice from the doorway, that we are not finished with each other, human. Jack turned to see Vexler standing there. The draconian scales seemed duller than before, and he held himself stiffly. A medical patch covered the base of his tail where Jack had struck the critical blow. Zorn and Kyrillon immediately stood at attention. Jack rose more slowly, his freshly healed wounds still tender. Instructor, he acknowledged. Leave us, Vexler said to the others. They quickly departed, closing the door behind them. For a long moment, Vexler simply stared at Jack. Then he moved into the room, his gaze taking in the simple living space. You studied me, he said finally, my species. Our weaknesses. Yes, Jack admitted. Just as you studied humans before I arrived. Vexler made a sound that might have been a laugh. Not well enough, it seems. He turned to face Jack fully. The Academy teaches combat, tactics, strategy. But it cannot teach instinct. You have that. Jack wasn't sure how to respond. This wasn't the angry Vexler he had come to know over the past weeks. Why did you ask to keep teaching me? He finally asked. Because you are dangerous, Vexler said simply. More dangerous than any first-year student I have encountered in 30 years at this academy. I'm just a human. That, Vexler said, his yellow eyes narrowing, is precisely what makes you dangerous. Humans appear weak. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons. Yet you defeated me using nothing but knowledge and determination. He moved closer, and Jack could smell the strange spicy scent of draconian skin. The galaxy fears what it does not understand, Mason. And no one understands humans yet, including you? Jack asked. Vexler Aztail swished slowly behind him. I understand more after our match. You are adaptable in ways other species are not. You use pain as fuel rather than distraction. You study enemies before engaging. His mouth curved in what might have been respect. These are traits of a true warrior. Jack was stunned by the admission. Then why did you try so hard to make me fail? Because failure is the best teacher. Vexler turned toward the door. You will report to advanced combat training tomorrow. Oh, and Mason? Yes, Instructor? Your new roommate arrives tonight. Another human would be problematic right now, so I have assigned someone else. After Vexler left, Jack sat heavily on his bed. His mind was spinning with the day's events. Victory in the arena, respect from Director Ortega, and now this strange conversation with Vexler. The door opened again, and a massive form ducked to enter. Jack recognized the stone-skinned student immediately. Grax, I thought you requested a different room. The Taurian set a bag on his old bed. I did. Then Instructor Vexler suggested I reconsider. He looked at Jack with small, dark eyes. He said we could learn from each other. Jack smiled slightly. He's right. Later that evening, as most students prepared for sleep, Jack received a message to report to the Academy's communications center. When he arrived, a technician directed him to a private booth. Incoming transmission from Earth, the technician said. Director Ortega authorized it. The screen flickered to life, showing the face of Admiral Frank Porter, head of Earth's Space Defense Force. Mason, Porter said, his voice clear despite traveling across light years. Word of your performance has reached us. Well done. Thank you, sir. You've opened a door we've been trying to push through for years. The Council has granted us 12 spots at the Academy, with more to follow if these students succeed. Jack felt a surge of pride. When do they arrive? 1 month. We're selecting the best candidates now. Porter leaned closer to the screen. But there's something else you should know. Not everyone is happy about humans joining the galactic community. There are species who see us as a threat, like the Draconians. Porter shook his head. Draconians respect strength. You've earned that much. I'm talking about the collective. They've opposed humanity's advancement from the beginning. Jack had heard rumors about the Collective, a group of technologically advanced species who believed they should guide the development of lesser races. "What does this mean for the new students?" Jack asked. "It means your job just got more complicated," Porter said. "You won't just be a student anymore. You'll need to help the others succeed. Show them what you've learned." "I understand." "Good." Porter's face grew serious. "One more thing, Mason. The Academy isn't just about combat training. It's about forging alliances. The friends you make there could determine humanity's place among the stars for generations to come." After the call ended, Jack walked slowly back to his room. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than any training exercise. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was paving the way for all humans who would follow Dot. As he passed the training arena, he noticed a light still burning. Inside, Wechsler was practicing alone, his movements fluid despite his injury. The Draconian paused, sensing Jack's presence. Their eyes met across the empty arena. No words were needed. Both knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, new lessons. Jack nodded once. Wechsler returned the gesture. Instructor and student. Former enemies, perhaps future allies. The galaxy was changing, and humans were part of that change. 1 month passed quickly at the Galactic Combat Academy. Jack's days were filled with advanced training sessions, often under Wechsler as watchful eye. The Draconian instructor pushed Jack harder than any other student, but there was a new purpose to his methods. He no longer tried to make Jack fail. Instead, he seemed determined to forge Jack into the best warrior possible. "Again," Wechsler ordered, as Jack completed a complex series of moves with the Kaivoth blade. "Your form improves, but your timing is still too human." Jack wiped sweat from his forehead and resumed the practice sequence. His muscles burned from hours of repetition, but he welcomed the pain. Each day made him stronger, faster, more skilled. "Better," Wechsler said when Jack finished. "You adapt quickly." Coming from Wechsler, this was high praise. Jack bowed slightly in acknowledgement. As they put away the practice weapons, Wechsler spoke without looking at Jack. "The new humans arrived today." "I know," Jack replied. "Director, Ortega asked me to meet them at the landing pad. They will look to you as an example." Wechsler's yellow eyes fixed on Jack. "What will you teach them first?" Jack considered the question carefully. "That respect is earned, not given. That we must understand our weaknesses to overcome them." He met the Draconian's gaze. "That the Academy tests more than just our bodies." Wechsler nodded slowly. "You have learned well, Mason." He turned to leave, then paused. "Remember, I will not go easy on them simply because you broke my spine." Jack smiled slightly. "I would expect nothing less, Instructor." Later that day, Jack stood on the Academy's landing pad as a transport ship descended from the orange sky. Beside him waited Director Ortega, her uniform crisp and formal for the occasion. "Nervous?" she asked. "A little," Jack admitted. "A month ago, I was just trying to survive here. Now I'm supposed to help others do the same. That's leadership. Mason, get used to it." The ship touched down with a soft hiss of landing gear. After a moment, the main door slid open. 12 humans in simple gray uniforms filed out, blinking in the bright light of Caraxus's twin suns. They looked young, fit, and completely overwhelmed by their new surroundings. "Welcome to the Galactic Combat Academy," Director Ortega announced. "I am Director Lynn Ortega, and this is advanced student Jack Mason, the first human to train here." Jack stepped forward, feeling the weight of their expectant gazes. These 12 represented Earth's best: pilots, soldiers, martial artists. Yet, here, among the stars, they were untested newcomers. "The next few months will be the hardest of your lives," Jack told them honestly. You'll be pushed beyond your limits. You'll face species with natural advantages you don't have. You'll bleed, and you'll doubt yourselves. He paused, looking at each face, but you'll adapt, because that's what humans do. As Jack led the new students toward the academy buildings, he noticed a group of alien students watching from a distance. Kyrillon and Zorn stood among them, along with Grax and several others Jack had come to know over the past weeks. "Are those ... friends of yours?" asked a tall woman named Alexa Rivera, one of the new arrivals. "Allies," Jack corrected. "You'll need to make your own here." They had just reached the main entrance when another group appeared, blocking their path. 5 senior students, led by a thin, gray-skinned alien with 4 eyes and a permanent sneer. "So these are the new pets," said the gray alien, looking over the humans with obvious disgust. "How unfortunate that the Academy lowers its standards." Yet again, Jack stepped forward. "Commander Vorzak, I didn't expect the collective to send a welcoming committee." Vorzy's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, simply observing the continued dilution of our proud institution. He leaned closer to Jack. "One lucky victory doesn't change the natural order. Mason, humans remain primitive, barely worthy of space travel, let alone positions in the Galactic Security Forces." The new students tensed at the insult. Jack raised a hand slightly, signaling them to stay calm. "Yet here we are," Jack said evenly. "Perhaps the natural order isn't as fixed as you believe." Vorzak's thin lips curved in a cold smile. "We shall see. The trial of 7 begins next week. I wonder how many humans will survive it." He glanced at the new arrivals. "Half, perhaps? Or fewer?" As Vorzak and his followers moved away, one of the new students, a compact man named Alan Cruz, stepped up beside Jack. "What's the trial of 7? "A teen challenge," Jack explained. 7 days, 7 tests, 7 members per team. It determines your permanent placement at the Academy. "And this collective, they're our enemies?" Jack chose his words carefully. "The collective believes advanced species should guide lesser ones. They opposed humanity joining the Council. They see us as a threat to their influence." "Because of you?" asked Alexa. "Partly," Jack admitted. "My match with Vexler attracted attention. It suggested humans might be more capable than they thought." Later that evening, after getting the new students settled in their quarters, Jack met with Kyrillon and Zorn in a quiet corner of the Academy gardens. The air was cool as Caraxes' suns began to set, casting long shadows across the exotic plants. "Vorzak wastes no time," Kyrillon said. "He fears what 12 more humans might accomplish, if even one could do what you did." Zorn nodded, his metallic skin reflecting the fading light. "The trial of 7 will be dangerous. Vorzak will ensure his team faces yours." "I expected that," Jack said. "But I didn't expect him to be so open about it." "The collective grows bolder," Kyrillon explained. "There are rumors they seek to control who joins the Council next. If humans succeed here, others will follow." Jack thought about what Admiral Porter had told him. The Academy wasn't just about combat training. It was about forging alliances. "I'll need your help," he told his friends. "Not just for me, but for all the new humans." Zorn placed one of his 4 hands on Jack's shoulder. "You have it. Some of us remember when our own species were newcomers." "What about Vexler?" Jack asked. "Where does he stand in all this?" Kyrillon's glowing eyes seemed troubled. "Draconians rarely involve themselves in politics. But Vexler has been different since your match. He watches the collective closely now." The next morning, Jack led the new humans on their first training run through the canyons. As they struggled with the low oxygen and unfamiliar terrain, he pushed them harder than they expected. "This isn't Earth," he reminded them as they gasped for breath. Nothing here is designed for us. That's the point. When they finally returned to the academy, exhausted and sore, they found Vexlar waiting in the training hall. The Draconian's imposing figure caused the new arrivals to straighten despite their fatigue. "These are the best Earth has to offer?" Vexlar asked, studying the humans with critical eyes. "They will be," Jack answered confidently. Vexlar approached the group, his tail swishing slowly behind him. "I am Instructor Vexlar. You have no doubt heard stories about me from Mason." His gaze swept over them. "Whatever he told you, know this. I will push you beyond what you believe possible. I will find your breaking points. I will make you face your weaknesses." The humans remained silent, uncertain how to respond. But Vexlar continued, "If you show the same spirit your fellow human did, you may survive long enough to become true warriors." He turned to leave and paused beside Jack. "The first human drew blood from me," he said, loud enough for all to hear. "He also earned my respect. Remember that during the trial of 7. As Vexlar departed, the new students looked at Jack with newfound curiosity. "I thought he hated humans," Alexa said. Jack watched the Draconian's retreating form. "He did. Maybe. He still does." He turned to face the group. "But he respects strength and skill, no matter what species shows it." "And the trial?" Alan asked. "Can we win against the Collective's team?" Jack thought about everything he had learned since arriving at the academy. About adaptation, about persistence, about turning weakness into strength. "We can," he said finally, "because we'll do what humans have always done when faced with superior forces." He smiled. "We'll change the rules of the game." As the twin suns of Caraxes set that evening, Jack stood alone on a balcony overlooking the academy grounds. In 1 month, 12 more humans would arrive, then more after that. Earth was finally taking its place among the stars. The path wouldn't be easy. The Collective would fight humanity's rise every step of the way. But they didn't understand what they were facing. Humans didn't need claws or armor or natural weapons. They had something more powerful, the ability to adapt, to learn, to turn adversity into advantage. Jack touched the scar on his cheek where Vexlar's tail had cut him on that first day. The Instructor had drawn first blood, thinking it would break the human spirit. Instead, it had only made him stronger.